very, very important that we have an airtight legal case in terms of the evidence that we have against a particular individual. But in this regard, you all can play a key role. So to the extent that you all become aware of information about particular individuals who might be responsible for human rights abuses, you should be sharing it with us. In terms of Vietnam, we have seen some overall human rights improvements, I would say, over the past couple of decades, but particularly in the past 5 years. We haven't had, there have been some sanctions on Vietnam in terms of weapons sales, transfers, that sort of thing, which were lifted recently by President Obama. But I wouldn't say it's the sanctions that really had the impact. It was rather Vietnam's wish to sort of have a countervailing influence vis-a-vis China, as well as Vietnam's interest in more fully integrating into the international economy. And we thought that the Trans-Pacific Partnership was actually a nice carrot to sort of dangle in front of the Vietnamese. And indeed, we have got them to commit to things like allowing for freedom of association among workers that they wouldn't have agreed to otherwise, by holding out the promise of their becoming part of the TPP deal. Now, unclear what's going to happen with that deal, but we'll just have to see who gets elected president, who is in the new Congress, and all of that. In terms of China's interest, I mean, China obviously is incredibly influential in the region and in the world, increasingly so. Is China interested in human rights as part of that influence? I'm afraid not. I mean, they're not very receptive to our overtures to them when it comes to their own human rights problems. Indeed, Xi Jinping has probably led a crackdown on human rights in China as severe as that after the events at Tiananmen Square. So China is not, unfortunately, a positive influence when it comes to human rights in the region. That said, as we discussed earlier, calling them out when they engage in forcible repatriation of people from the DPRK, taking advantage of the relative freedoms in China compared to North Korea is important. I mean, even though there are constraints in China on freedom of expression, freedom of information, they still have much more than there is in North Korea. So we're using is the wrong word. We're taking advantage of some of the things that China has, that the people of China have access to hopefully provide those same things to North Korea. But I don't think we're going to have a willing partner with the government of China in trying to improve human rights in North Korea or in the region.
Thank you. That's a part of my question that the same with race is the political will. And I believe that the U.S. is the only nation that China will listen to, because the U.S. has been supporting China economically. So is there an economic tool that we can talk to China, especially at this time, because I believe China is facing some economic problems?
That's a big, big issue, and whether or not we have leverage, I think, is an open question. Some people believe we do. So far, we haven't been able to get the Chinese to change their behavior on some domestic concerns of ours, including on North Korea. On other issues like climate change, like Iran, we've had more success.
Grace, I give you just one. Yes.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to explain that when I talk about political will, I'm talking about getting 193 members of the General Assembly demanding change. Okay, it would be, 191 countries except for China and North Korea. I know it wouldn't be that either, but the overwhelming political will of many, many countries around the world, instead of the U.S. just having another meeting with Beijing. It's to enhance, it's to make up for the strength of political will between one country and another.
Thank you very much, Grace. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for lunch. Now, before we go for lunch, Scott, I'm sure you have one of these
Yeah.
from previous.
You can always use another.
Yes, and you can always use the other one.
One for home, one for the office.
Very good. Now, that's from Philadelphia. Then we have one more.
Ah, even better.
Okay, and this is U.S.-Korea Alliance, and cherish this when you do next time something. Okay, this is all yours. Yes, please. Okay, now it's time for lunch, and we get back here 10 to 1 p.m. Next speaker will be the Honorable John Hunter.